Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with season 12, episode 17 of our Q&A thing. You're probably on YouTube. You might be on a podcast platform listening to it in audio only. And both are equally valid, but only one gives us ad revenue. So for our benefit, I guess technically it's better for us if you listen to it or if you're watching and listening on YouTube. But from a sort of user experience perspective, I guess it depends. If you want to see the team that we're talking about, then the video is probably better. And if you tend to not pay that much attention to it, then I would say that the podcast is usually better.
I would say the season, though, has been a good one if you want to watch the teams, because
that's true.
I've been really racking my brains to come up with all the teams that I've really enjoyed playing for different reasons. They're good, they're fun, whatever. And I think I might be coming close to the end of it. This is episode 17, so this is the 17th team that is good on its own, independent of the other teams, like in a significantly different way, like a real functional way. You know what I mean? Like the gameplay is different. So I think this is a great season for that, to actually watch the videos and be on YouTube.
Yeah. And so this is the season where we're going through our favorite teams, like you mentioned, but a little bit before, I just wanted to, I'm sure I've already talked about it, but I am rewatching Severance because the new season is been announced to be coming out, I think in like January, like mid-January. And it is so good, man. It's a really, really weird, cool, fun show. What strikes me about it the second time around is how genuinely funny it is, and how funny it is with not a lot of like quote unquote jokes, because it's a weird sort of absurd show and everybody plays it straight.
Like Arrested Development? Weird? Like that, to me, you're describing the way I would describe Arrested Development.
Have you seen Severance?
I have not.
Okay, you should definitely watch it. No. So the sort of pitch of the show is that it's like a sci-fi-y, but like realistic sci-fi world, and where there's a procedure where you can get your consciousness split.
Okay.
And specifically the people doing it are doing it to work, and they split their consciousness so that their work self is separated from the rest of their life.
So you got a servant doing your stuff, like the grunt work.
Basically, and the idea is that, they're like, oh, well, if you're working with documents or confidential or classified information, right, then you can get put down. And so that's the starting point. Wait,
you mean get put down? So they let you do the work, and to keep it confidential, they kill the copy of you.
Well, they don't kill the copy of you. That copy of you can just only exist on work grounds, basically.
Oh, okay.
And so it's sort of a bit of a thriller. It's a bit of, there's moments of it. I don't know if I would describe it as a horror, but there's a sort of psychological horror aspect to, having an instantiation of yourself whose only experience of the world is just constant work, right? Who is essentially sort of trapped in this weird purgatory. Right. And they get really...
Is that purgatory? That's a neutral way. I mean, that would be hell to me if I was doing all work and nothing else.
That's fair.
I could live and work.
Yeah.
That would be.
And so that's the starting point. But then it's also... It's really weird in a lot of ways. Like, it takes that concept and it does a bunch of weird stuff in terms of tone. But it also sort of works with like the mundanity of like office work and the aesthetics of like an office environment. And because it's so weird and strange and off-putting, but like every character in it plays it kind of straight, there's a lot of like genuine like humor that comes from just how people are responding in a way that feels appropriate for the situation, but it's such a bizarre situation. And there's definitely some stuff that's specifically like meant to be silly or a little absurd, but it's not. The biggest sort of laughs I get out of it are from stuff that is played pretty straight, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'd be quite good. In my rewatch, I haven't gotten to the end of the season yet, but I remember how good the end of the season is. The last episode is like a real sort of like fever pitch, like super fast paced, like really tense episode. And it's cool. And I'm really glad it's getting a second season, and I'm glad that I'm going to be able to be watching it soon.
Nice.
And so this is a great time for you to get in on it, where if you watch it now or in the next month or two, you get to wait and be excited for the next season before it comes out. But you don't have to wait very long. You don't have to feel like, oh man, I wish it was already out, right? You get a little bit of that anticipation. It's like sort of remembering like your birthday's coming up soon, and somebody being like, oh yeah, I got you a pretty cool gift.
This is what I say about holidays. If you don't get to anticipate holidays, then you're wasting a big part of the joy. Because looking forward to something, you never lose that, no matter how awful it turns out to be. So let's say your vacation ends up being like total junk and total crap.
Yeah.
You know what? If you got to anticipate it ahead of time and enjoy that sort of tension,
Yeah.
it's still a win.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah. If it sneaks up on you, I guess it's nice. It's a nice surprise. I'd rather have, this is like fiction. This is like fiction writers. Some of the writers I like have said, or at least one of them has said, anticipation is better than surprise. Because surprise, you can only be surprised once.
Yeah.
Anticipation, when you know it's going to happen and you know how it's going to be good, you get to enjoy it over and over. So that's what makes, like when you have a book that you really like or a movie you really like, you get to watch it over and over again and still enjoy it as much.
Yeah, so there we go. I would say that we were at that point in the real world, like sort of time scale until season 2 drops. We're at the point where you can watch it and anticipate it and be excited, but not really have to wait.
So if we're going to be endorsing stuff or just giving plugs to stuff that we're enjoying lately. So Ted Chiang, the short story writer, he's known for shorter fiction, science fiction. Really good. He wrote The Story of Your Life, which ended up being Arrival. He was doing a Toronto Public Library event. Really fun. Like he was interesting and he was funny. And the person who was interviewing him, Kelly Robson, was also kind of cool. So I'm anticipating I'm going to be getting her short story collection soon. They didn't have any at the event. But Ted Chiang had some interesting things to say about Rival. Since I've seen the movie, which I love, and I read this story now, which I also love, but they're different things, even though they're sort of rooted in the same ideas. It's amazing to me. And he kept on giving props to the screenwriter who was motivated and was the driving force behind bringing it to life.
Yeah.
How it's a totally different thing, that the fact that even a bad movie is a triumph.
Yeah.
It's like winning a battle. And if the fact that it got made is something, and the fact that it is a movie that he likes is amazing. Like he doesn't even have to pretend to, be diplomatic about how, it's pretty cool. Like he really liked it.
Yeah. Well, it's a quite good movie.
Oh yeah. So, and so when I got to the front of the line, I said, I'm so glad you said that, because this would be really awkward, because I brought out the Bluetooth for him to, or
Blu-ray
for him to sign of the movie, because I love that movie. There's not a lot of movies that I really enjoyed that much. Like there's just something almost perfect. Like I like TV shows better in a lot of ways, because there's more time to sort of bring out a little, like the depth and the fullness. And so movies are already have to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, because I think most of my favorite media is going to be a TV show or something with more space to explore, like a novel, right?
Yeah. So I Arrival, really enjoyed it. I hadn't realized it was that long ago. It was like 2016.
Yeah. I only watched that relatively recently when I was watching Dune and Dune Part 2.
Right.
And people were sort of talking more about Denis Villeneuve. Yeah.
Villeneuve.
I did not realize that he was Quebecois.
He is Quebecois.
Yeah. But so I was sort of going through his stuff and I knew that was supposed to be good.
Yeah, Ted Chiang was saying that Denis Villeneuve gets a lot of the credit for how
are you like pronouncing it a different way every time?
I don't know. I'm trying to. I'm clearly not French. But how he gets a lot of the credit for what you see at the end of it, and that's true, because I think the director's vision is really what comes across on the screen. But the fact that it exists as a thing. And he gave a whole long story about what the screenwriter had to do to get to the point to have it developed, and how it was developed in a way that usually doesn't happen. That the screenwriter did it on spec, but also needed sort of the rights from Ted Chiang and said, can we do this? I don't pay you anything now, but just give me this much time to make something of it. And then he did.
That's
and
cool.
It was because anyways.
I think there's something really compelling when there are creative people who have a real passion for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it's always good, but I will say that I think most of the best stuff comes out of that genuine passion.
Yeah.
Right? You can still get something pretty terrible. Like, I'm not going to say it's terrible because I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's newest movie, is like not good.
Yeah.
But like not good in a very specific way. And it's gotten sort of kind of terrible reviews. And I've seen a lot of people say stuff like it kind of has you asking questions about like what bad or good is in the context of a movie.
Yeah.
And I've seen some interesting discussions of people going like, the problem with movies is it's one of the only medium, like movies and TV shows and stuff like that, where it has to be quote unquote good instead of just interesting. There's
Right.
a lot of art that can be interesting and make you feel something and whatever. And then you go, was it good? Did you enjoy it? And you go, well,
Well, it makes sense that it has to be like that
Yeah.
because it's mainstream, it's big money, big budget. So you can't make a movie that cheap anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got so many people investing in it, it makes sense that you have to have at least sort of like a slightly higher threshold
Yeah.
of mass appeal.
Yeah, it's true, but enjoyable instead of interesting or engaging or thought-provoking. Because thought-provoking is good in one sense of the words.
Sure.
But that, like, entertaining is, like, the only sort of real metric that we judge movies on in general. And they have to be entertaining first before they're anything else. It's a very narrow definition of, like, a successful piece of art.
Well, I'll say too, though, that it's a mature enough medium that it's not unreasonable to think, because when you put constraints on something, when you're trying to do something and there's more constraints on it, that what you can potentially come up with is often potentially more beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've said this before, Tim Powers does those alternate histories, secret histories,
Mm-hmm.
Stories where he fills in the details of real events with this wildly imaginative story that has often fantastical elements, and it's like ridiculous sometimes about like how wild it is, and it fits so neatly into history, like the real history that we know. So I think if you try to make something that's entertaining and you make yourself do that and do the interesting thing in addition to it, so much better. Like if it's just interesting, then it really has the appeal. Like I'm not always in the mood to look at, to find something new, something interesting, but I'm always in the mood. If you're going to amuse me, you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's our little more preamble. We were just going to recommend a couple things, but a good talk.
Yeah. No, because I had a whole thing about this Red Sun team. So
that you've already been watching now for a little while, if you are watching the video.
Yeah. So what's neat to me is that, so the Red Sun team, there's been a lot of iterations of the Red Sun team. And the original team that had a synergy, that was a class above anything else that was available at the time, you could get the Red Sun pack for power credits. It was only 400,000. It's still only that. But back in the day, there were only 3 Red Sun characters. This was the capital bolded italic, the pack to buy. Mm-hmm. You get an instant team that could be promoted in lockstep with each other. It was reasonably cheap, and they had this amazing synergy. And in addition, you could get random drops for any of those 3 original Red Sun characters in the regular gold pack. And that was such a treat. Like, to me, Red Sun is tied in with so many like great memories of the original game. And the Red Sun pack now is fine. It's a little worse for having a random drop of 3 out of 6, so you can't always be consistently getting the same team. Mm-hmm. But it's better for having the options of not getting Solomon Grundy.
It's true.
So this team, we've got Red Sun Wonder Woman. Her passive is Red Sun Power, Wonder Woman, and her team gain 15% power generation for each Red Sun character on her team. That's pretty great. So if you look at her, I think...
Yeah, because even 15% by itself is already pretty good.
Right, so
just
45%.
as a passive on herself, but then on a full team, 45% is huge.
So I think she's the not negotiable member. If you want a really good Red Sun team, each member of the team gets a 45% power generation boost on a full Red Sun team. There is not a single gear that can give you that much of a power generation boost. Never mind do that for every character on a team.
Yeah.
And the temptation is to use a character in a role that is already suggested by the passive. In this case, Wonder Woman being a special specialist because she generates power. And that temptation is there even if everybody on the team benefits from the passive, because any one of these 3 guys could be your special specialist.
Yeah, because they just generate power so fast.
Right. Like, she doesn't have an advantage on her passive over anybody else.
They all kind of get to be a special specialist, not by accident, but like in addition to whatever else they are. Because you're going to be getting more specials than you would on most teams.
Right.
You're getting as many as you would if you gear them up to deal more special, like to get more power generation.
Yeah. I believe, though, in this case, I have geared her with Tantu Totem, Claw of Horus, Master's Death Cart to be the special specialist. And I think in this case it's justified because of some non-passive things. Her special one is excellent for Claw of Horus because it takes so little in-game time that you can do her special one 3 times during the Astro Harness invincibility if the opponent has it. Mm-hmm. The swipe minigame makes it a little bit worse because that's not the game that I like on any of the specials, but that's offset by how much you get on each swipe, which is 10%. There's some swipe mini games that are 5% only. So it's easier to max out her special compared to other people who have a swipe game mini game, right? And then we've got Red Sun Energy Armor for Red Sun Green Lantern. So Red Sun characters on Green Lantern's team take 20% less special damage and are immune to stun and crit. He's got Killer Croc Companion, Gingold Soda, and Astro Harness. The original team that had a synergy that was a class above anything else that was available at the time. I don't think there's anything separating any of the other newer Red Sun characters except for Green Lantern. And so he is what makes the Red Sun team so annoying to fight against.
Yeah.
No stun, no crit damage, reduced specials damage. That really takes away so much of the offensive potential of a team facing you, and a lot of how we gear our teams to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, it makes it really, really hard for the team that you're fighting to be like have an edge on you, right? It takes away most of what you would have as an advantage against you, right?
So the Flashpoint team becomes ordinary. You're not vulnerable the same way to the Batgirl skins and Lucha Bane, although if a stun happens in the middle of a special, like it does with the Batgirl special ones where they stun at the beginning, you still get stunned. The passive doesn't protect you against that. Yeah,
it's almost like an animation thing.
Right. And so here's the thing, right? We've geared him as a tank with those gears. It was easy to make him a tank. He could easily be our basic damage specialist or our special specialist. Because everybody's gaining power. We'll get to it with Superman. Has advantage of Superman's passive. But, I think part of it will be that you don't always play a full Red Sun team. So you get, I get a little bit into the habit, if I ever split up Red Sun team, if Wonder Woman is on the team, I want her to be the special specialist to take advantage of her passive. But again, I mean, it's not really the right answer, because I think, it's everybody on the team, right? That gets the benefit. It's just that it's boosted if there's more Red Sun team members.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's her whole team that gets it. So it's funny. So, all right, and Superman. So this is the other thing. Superman's ability is Red Sun Strength. Superman has team gain a 25% damage boost of basic attacks for each Red Sun character on his team. He's got Overpowered Super, Necron Scythe, and Clark Kent's glasses. So we're mixing it up a little bit, adding gear that we normally don't use. His glasses give 18% power generation increase. It will disable enemy specials 100% of the chance on special 1 and 30% crit chance on special 1. So he's geared to both be a basic damage dealer and special specialist.
Yeah.
So this third team slot could easily be a different Red Sun character. Maybe Batman for the unblockable special 1. I think I've advocated for that as a good Red Sun team. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Green Lantern. But we're going old school here and getting that 75% basic damage boost to every member of the team. And that single ability is better than what you can get from any gear. I think the top is 70%. Boost to basic damage.
You know, in the same way that the power gen makes everybody else kind of a special specialist, this makes everybody else more effective as a basic damage dealer. So what it means is that it becomes just that much harder for anybody to sort of neutralize your team, right? There's nothing that they can protect against. If they've protected against specials more than anything else, you've got sort of basic damage just as a fallback.
Yeah, go ahead, steal our power. We can still whack you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's another thing where, you know, the perfect storm of somebody having a response that makes it a lot harder for you to use specials. It's unlikely that anybody would be able to like stop you with that, but like it makes it just that even a little bit harder. And it means that everything that you do, you know, whether you're building energy to use a special or whatever, it's all effective and it's all accelerated. It's all worth doing.
It's all amped up.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's only one ability, right? But it's for every card. Like we're missing a lot of times where we got newer gold cards with lots of abilities that are only for themselves. It gives you that option because we've got Red Sun Superman in the first slot against an entry hazard team. and it makes the fights much less risky. You don't tag him out. You just keep on whacking on the opponent. And of course, we made him a basic damage guy in addition to a special specialist. Like, he's really sort of getting the advantage of sort of both roles. So, I mean, he doesn't have to be a basic damage dealer, but again, that's the habit. And so I think there might even be a fight here against where he's in first slot and so is Gaslight Batman. And he just gets to whack him. Like, you don't have to worry. Like, when your team is focused only on special specialists, and that means Tantu Totem, that means tagging in, then you don't have to worry about it. He does a few swipe combos. It's enough to either knock out the opponent in front of you, or they get tired and they tag out. Lots of fun. This is a great team, and I'm glad that I sort of had to make myself remember to bring back this team, because it was so good originally, and it's still pretty good now. You see in the first fight, you don't get max battle points. You only get 4,500. But in the second one, you get 5,000. Everyone after that, it's the max 5,000. So even at the E7, it's not quite max, but you could, if you wanted to, you could, do a couple breakthroughs and easily make it a max battle point team. I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
Still pretty good. Not the fastest, but man, it's effective, and it's not very risky at all. Very capable team.
Yeah. Okay. So our first comment this week, this is sort of an interaction that you had.
Oh yeah. So I want to address both the question and the interaction. I think.
Because the initial comment is from Elisar Telcontar 9709, and they say, it would be nice if you guys use more diverse teams in the videos. Every single time, it's always Prime Hawkgirl, Rebirth Raven, and the featured character. Most people watching these videos, it's probably to get better at the game and getting to know the characters better. It would help a lot if we got to see synergies between different teams rather than the same one every week. Anyways, love your videos, keep it up.
So I was of two minds when I read this, right? Because on the one hand, clearly they're coming at it with sort of in good faith.
Yeah.
They end it with, love your videos, keep it up. But they're also the kind of viewer that I think don't pay attention the same way. Like, they're not, because we do, I don't say this every week, but one of the points of doing the weekly recap with footage, which we didn't used to always do with gameplay. We used to do it with just like the screen.
Like the tabs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. To show you the stuff that we were talking about. That people typically play characters on teams taking advantage of the one thing that they're really good at.
Yeah.
And the weekly recaps, I made the effort to try to make them the star of the team, unless they're just not fit to be the star. And the example that comes to the top of my head is Red Lantern Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
He does not have enough health to take out a team that's more powerful than his and not knock himself out before he finishes the third character. He just doesn't have enough health to keep on sucking it out.
Yeah.
So typically the best way is to let them be the star by giving them Tantu Totem, making them special specialists. And in order to do that, you use the best supporting characters. And more often than not, despite any synergies, if they are going to be the number one character, because a lot of those characters should not be number one characters, should not be the star, then it means Rebirth, Raven, and, I mean, you don't have to have Hawkgirl, but it means that the fights, you get more of a chance to let them shine because they get to tag in and out more often.
Yeah. And so I think the other sort of longer point about this too is that that's almost kind of like a different type of content, right? We're giving some people something to watch. They get to see the new character.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a standard format where you're just seeing play as the character, right?
Right.
If you're talking about, wanting to get better at the game and know the characters better and see synergies, you're right. If somebody wanted to get that information, right, the content should look a little bit different. But I think I would make the argument that the content would be different a lot of different ways. You'd want to have maybe a discussion of like what's actually happening and help give people sort of information to contextualize it. For sort of background video for a primarily like informational video that's going into a different type of information, I think just seeing the character get play is what makes sense in terms of an effort to outcome perspective for us. And I think that maybe this viewer you say that they maybe don't pay as much attention. I would almost say that this viewer's paying more attention than I'd expect the average person
that video.
To the video.
Yeah,
right?
I was thinking more of the channel.
Yeah.
So that, I mean...
From that perspective, if they're watching the video and they're saying, well, I'm here and I'm watching it, what can I glean from what I'm watching? I don't even know how many people on any given week are paying that attention, you know?
So here's the thing, right? Like that I guess there's a slight disconnection between what our intention is with the video and what LSR is expecting. And here's the thing, it's not LSR's fault, because I think it's part of what I'm bringing to it, right? So in the social media that I consume outside of this, when I'm not BDCKR, when I'm my real self, is that one of the frustrations I get is when people expect something that they see to be something that it's not, and there's no room for it. And it's that when people derail, say, a thread that's meant to be about one point, and say, but what about this? Yeah, but what about it? That's not the point. This is not the format that actually allows it. So I want to point out, we've got actual, like, complete playlists of different multiplayer teams organized around not necessarily one character. Some of them are around one character, but in a lot of those fights, they're actually teams, like the way that we formulate them that we like it. And this whole season has been 17 episodes of different teams optimized by teammates, by gear, and by team order.
Yeah, so I think that for what it's worth, for what LSR seems to be wanting, there's a lot of stuff specifically on our channel. You don't even have to look past our channel to get more of that kind of stuff from us. What you might be missing very specifically, sort of very narrowly, is with the people that we got this week, right? How should I be structuring my team for them specifically as I'm getting them fresh, right? Which is a fair thing to want necessarily. I don't think it's bad to be interested in that. But also, you know, it's a little outside of our purview. We're doing the stuff that we want to be doing. And so I'm never going to say, you know, a blatant no to feedback, but also for a lot of stuff, it has to be, if somebody gives me an idea that makes me want to do it. That's the kind of feedback that we're taking at this point.
To me, the kicker is, though, that it's something that not only have we done lots of it, we're still doing it. Now, here, today, at this moment.
So do you want to read out the first response?
So did you read out mine?
No, I just read mine, or the initial comment.
So my response soon after was, if you watch more than just the weekly recaps, you would see more diverse teams. And I felt like, you know, like I said, I had to balance the fact that, listen, I love that he loves our channel. Or loves our videos. Actually, he didn't say he loved the channel. He loves our videos. So that's kind of cool. But balancing against the fact that, well, there's a frustration that I bring when people are asking for stuff that we've already done, or that we're already done, again, that we are currently doing.
So maybe a bit terse, but I don't think, like, not mean, I would say. And what I mean, it's information, sort of. I think what this is, if it comes across as more sort of terse or whatever, it's just because it's direct and you've stripped any sort of, like, oh, you know, we appreciate it, or there's no, like, sort of that, like, extra social facilitating language. It's just very direct, like, you know, basically watch other stuff that we do. But then somebody named Rumbling End 8443 says, bro, just take the criticism. One of your 100 viewers is talking.
So this is all me, these comments. I mean, at any point, it could be either one of us. The comments after this was, all right, so...
I would not have replied this way, but I'm willing to let you stand by your...
So I put in quotes, just take. I said, okay, abuser, big thumbs up.
Which to me feels a little inflammatory.
It's totally meant to be, right? Because I think... So here's the thing, right?
Now we know where those automatic recommendations are coming from.
Oh, yeah, there's another thing. Anyways, So sometimes I'm not always like this. But I mean, again, they're injecting themselves into conversation. And that's fine. You know, it's the whole, you know, audience of 100 people, maybe less, are part of this conversation. But the idea that, hey, just take it. Just take the criticism. I mean, when the fact is, I think it's an invalid criticism that we should be doing other teams. We are already. You can't do all the teams all the time in every video. I mean, that's ridiculous. So there's a resonance in that kind of language when they say, yeah, just take the criticism. Just take it. It is abuse. It is, all right, it's not necessarily abuse. It's the speech of the abuser that you're supposed to just take whatever you get. You don't stand up for yourself. And you should just be grateful that the implication is that you should just be grateful somebody's watching you.
Yeah. I would say that this person came in a little more aggressive than your comment. And by a little more, I mean they came in aggressive. You know, I think your comment was at worst, I would call it a little terse. And this is a little aggressive. And then you came in pretty aggressive from there.
Well,
so,
you know, again, it's my first instinct. We've not been shy about saying what our intention is with this and that we've been doing this really to amuse ourselves.
Yeah.
So when somebody makes a comment that tells you that they feel like they are entitled to not only your time, but your intention, and that somehow it's not even, I guess you could call it criticism. It was a suggestion, but if you want to take it as criticism, that somehow something negative directed towards you, you need to just accept and say, more, sir, please, may I have some more?
Yeah.
They can go buzz off. We do not need that. We're happy with 99 viewers if that rumbling end is just not going to bother.
Yeah. And so we have one more comment from Fanatic Zulu 3836, and they say, replying to Rumbling End, it's his channel. He can respond to comments or make videos however he wants. If it, quote, offends you, watch someone else. And I think that's a not bad sort of response. And I think that's another thing to think about when you're sort of coming into a space and sort of our relative levels that we're coming in at, which is that we are in a space that we have created and have to maintain. And I'm not saying that like that's a huge deal for us, like that's a huge amount of work, but you're coming onto our channel and you're replying to our videos, right? And this is like, this is our sort of little slice of the world.
Slice of heaven.
And if you're not a fan of it, you're just sort of a visitor who shows up, doesn't like it. It's very easy to leave. It's actually it's easier to in fact go somewhere else than it is to feel the need to say something. And we've got another comment that's kind of related, but we are running a little bit long on time. So I think what we'll do is there's a promise for next week, which is we have a comment from XQC that talks about the AI responses and compliments and other stuff like that.
QXC?
Sorry, QXC. Did I say XQC?
You did.
That's my bad. I said XQC, who's a French-Canadian streamer.
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, XQC.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like not a fan of him. So I don't... QXC, I'm sorry for confusing you. That's not a fair comparison. Your comments and interactions on the channel have been very lovely, and if I've conjured the mind in my mind's eye a vision of a French Canadian streamer who I'm not a fan of, that's not how I feel about you and the relationship that we have. We'll talk about that, and then I think also what I'll make a commitment to talking about next week is when I give in to sort of the dark voices and I speak aggressively to people online. There was an interaction I had not too long ago in a game that I told you about.
Yes,
and
that was hilarious.
That I think has been an ongoing conversation.
And I just, before we finish, because I feel like there's stuff that's coming up in my head. I mean, this has been relatively spontaneous. It's not like I've got any notes on this. But the other thing is... Rumbling End, I feel like if they're willing to say this like this in this situation, I don't know what other kind of abuse they're going to be giving people who maybe are a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more vulnerable and are going to be affected by somebody coming at them and saying something like this. And I want to at least, I don't want to be complicit in this kind of, allowing this kind of attitude on our channel. And this is, again, there's the psychology behind it where when you are silent, when people are doing something bad, you give them the opportunity to believe that you're okay with that.
Yeah.
And the more people that are silent about it, the more they can, in their own internal monologue to themselves, and say, yeah, everybody agrees with me. And no, people don't agree with you. People should not take abuse or criticism or whatever just because somebody chooses to give it. You can. Yeah. But that's not required.
I think there's, in general, a lot of interactions that happen online that just kind of are strictly negative for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Unnecessarily
even if
negative.
Rumbling End felt sort of joy at leaving this comment or whatever, I don't think that anything productive was gained from this. And so I'm not even...
I do.
No, okay.
I got a little bit of joy out of it.
Fair.
Like sometimes I like to vent. Like sometimes you ever have those situations where, and most of the time I'm not in that mood, but sometimes I'm itching for a little bit of to just blow off a little steam. And sometimes if I've come up with the right framing, like the idea when I saw this was that I thought, man, what a
jerk.
What a jerk. Yeah, exactly. And I thought, I want to say something, but I don't want to waste a bunch of time saying it. I feel like I got it just enough words. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Yeah. Very happy with that.
I definitely, I feel that inclination. Again, I'll talk about it next week, but every once in a while, I never say anything critical when I'm playing an online video game against people. I never say it about any of my teammates or about the enemy team.
Can you say that anymore now? Is that true still?
To them, unless somebody else starts it. And then there's like a sleeper cell activation phrase in the back of my head where I fully absolve myself. I'm like, you can't hold me responsible for what I'm about to say next. Yeah. And I sometimes then I'm rude back. I'm like, all right, I'm taking the gloves off.
If you're listening to this and you're not me, it's a fun story.
Okay, so that's a sneak preview for next week.
And we're creating some buzz for next week.
Yeah, exactly, for all 100 of our viewers. And even less than that who have made it all the way to the end of the video. But to finish off, thank you if you've made it to the end of the video, hung out with us for half an hour, listened to us drone on at you. That's cool. I appreciate that. That's like a weird thing to me still when I think about like people sort of sitting down with us and spending all the time that we're spending, except they don't actually even get to sort of participate in the conversation the same way. They're just sitting back and listening. That's fun. And we'd also like to give a huge thank you to our patrons on Patreon. That's even more fun. People who like our stuff enough that they give us money on a regular basis just to keep doing this stuff. That's wild. So a huge thank you to Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi 127, and Nora Klimek supporting us on the credited level. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.